give me one shot here on a blue chip stock, believe me, Kevin, the only problem you're gonna have is that you didn't buy more.
Nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in circles.
What's going on, NBA draft fans? Your boys are back. The Wolves of Ball Street, your favorite draft analysts. My name is Corey Tulliba. I am here, as always, with my co-host, Albert Garbage Time Gim. Albert, what's popping, dude?
As we say, we're living the dream. Corey, right before we started recording, we were talking about we're like less than a month away from the NBA draft. So this is busy season for us. We got a lot going on, but even with all the madness and the busyness, what a incredible opportunity, incredible guests that we have today. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man. Very, very, very exciting guest. We have Damien Wilkins in the building, longtime NBA vet, worldwide basketball traveler, GM of the Overtime Elite, head of basketball operations at the Overtime Elite, played for the Seattle Supersonics and the Oklahoma City Thunder. So, Damien, thank you for coming and chop it up with us today, man.
For sure, man. I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, man.
That was a hell of an introduction.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, we're excited to talk to you. I think that, for multiple reasons. One, you have so much experience, obviously getting to know and speak with and develop the guys in the overtime program, many of which who are in this draft, and also guys who have gone through that program, but also just your experience going through these kind of processes yourself and, the insight that you have to offer and that perspective. I think it's going to be a really fun, conversation today.
Yeah. I mean, listen, like we obviously have had one successful draft last year, most notably with Amin and Sarr Thompson going 4 and 5. And now we have alumni that's come from OTE that in the draft this year. We actually have 6 guys in the draft this year. I know, the highlight of it all is Alex Sarr and Rob Dillingham, but we also have Ethan Almanza, Tyler Smith, Jalen Lewis, and Bryson Warren. So we're excited. We're excited about all the possibilities. We're excited for these guys and the journey they're about to embark on. And we hope and pray that, we prepared them and help prepare them for what they're about to embark on. And, I know, those guys, they went on from OTE after being with us for 2 years and spent time in other respective places. And they all showed up and showed out. So now here we are. And we're hoping to have all of those guys walk across the stage for sure.
For sure. Now, before we get into like all that, I guess let's start at the beginning. Like, what was it that drew you to the overtime program? Because very young program. It's only been a couple of years. There definitely has been a lot of skepticism about it, especially early on. Yeah. Admittedly, I think from 2 of the guys that were on this screen, early on, until we got to see what that process looks like in person. But what drew you to the Overtime Elite program, and how did you, what happened when you got the call? Who contacted you? Like the whole process to get you started there.
Well, I'll start with just to, address some of the skepticism that even you guys admittedly had. I mean, like people fear what they don't understand, right? And the minute things, of this nature start to go, I don't want to say off course, but in a different direction, people get nervous, right? Like it's just how life is. It's just how society is. And we knew we were doing something different, but we also knew that we were doing something very beneficial. I think the proof is in the numbers now. That can't be denied. We have countless amount of guys who have major Division I scholarship offers or have gone on to play in big time, collegiate programs. We right now have, a host of guys that's either playing in the NBA, playing overseas professionally, or playing in the G League. And we now have 6 guys in this year's draft. Most notably Alex Sarr, who can potentially be and probably is going to be the #1 pick to our Hawks right here in Atlanta. So I can get why people felt the way they felt about our program. Even I had my questions at first about how it was going to work prior to coming here. But at the time when I got the call, I was working for the Players Association, and which is the union of the NBA players. And a lot of the work that we were doing there and that they continue to do there is about career development. It's about, finding longevity, finding ways to have longevity in the game. And it's also about just building your career and everything that happens after that, right? And it was a tough job for me doing that, honestly, man, because like I'm trying to get players who have $20 million, $30 million in the bank to come to a program that the NBPA is hosting to help them with their career. And they're like, you can look at that and be like, well, look at my bank account. I don't need help with my career. You know what I mean? So it's very challenging in that regard. So I think that's where relationship building becomes important. So for me, it was interesting because I thought of it like, well, man, if I can reach a 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old kid where they are there at OTE and help the Players Association's job become much more easier, like, because I'm a union guy myself, right? So it was a no-brainer to me. I'm like, man, like, what if I would have had the tools at 16, at 18, at 19, that I can give back to these guys now? Like, where would my career be? Where would I be? How much more success would I have? That's what drove me to it. And just knowing the landscape of grassroots basketball, these kids are getting a lot of bad advice. And it's actually kind of shameful how much bad advice they're getting, or unrealistic advice. Like, no one's being honest with these kids nowadays. And I think a large part of our job and our development with our guys at OTE is being honest with them, not shattering their dreams, but being honest with them and helping them understand what their trajectory is and where they may be headed versus where other people who are not in the know tell them where they're headed.
Right. Damien, I feel like everything that you said is really interesting, right? And I think for Corey and I, as you know, Corey mentioned earlier, we did have, some skepticism in the very beginning, but we're here now and we have you on a pod. And I think for me, when I was thinking about the OTE, right, thinking about, and maybe this is because Corey and I are about to become, both of us, respectively, are about to become first-time parents. We got kids coming on the way. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys on the first time, so let's get this.
Hey, that's why this pod is important. But I think for both of us, we're kind of thinking like, we can't ignore what's happened to like a similar program in the G League Ignite, right? They're no longer around, right? But OTE, you guys are still booming and things are still going well. But was thinking like, if a prospective parent, right, someone who's got a kid who, as you mentioned, is maybe 15, 16, 17 years old, and they're considering all these different routes, because the day and age that we live in now, there's so many different routes to getting to the pros, right? Whether it's the NBA or overseas or whatever, right? So if, let's say I was a parent and I've got my kid and he's the next thing, I don't know. But I go to you and I go, Damien, my kid wants to become a pro one day. He's got a lot of different options in front of him. What would you say is the biggest draw for a parent like me to send my kid to the OTE? What would be your main thing to be like, hey, this is why your kid should come play for the OTE?
Well, I would ask a couple questions first, just like I do with our parents now. And I would say, what's important to you? I would ask that kid and his parents, what are the most important things to you? And is it being a guy who averaged 30 points in high school playing against, I don't know, math majors? You know, is it a guy who just wants to get better at an accelerated rate every single day and test your fabric against guys who are just as good or better than you? Like, which one of those things are most important to you? Now, if you answer the latter, then you're fit for OTE. If you answer and say, well, you know, I want to go somewhere where I can still score my 20 to 30 points a night and take any shot I want and, you know, screw shot selection, like that's not something that I think about, then OTE wouldn't be for you, right? Like we had 2 guys go 4 and 5 in the draft that averaged, what, 16 and 17 points respectively?
Yeah.
Like here at OTE, that tells you about the level of competition, but it also tells you about our player development and how focused we are on our on and off the court player development. Our games on Friday and Saturday nights, like you guys have seen them, that air on Amazon Prime every weekend. Like our games for us internally, our basketball people inside are like, yeah, let's go ahead and let's throw a product out there that's a good product and entertaining and everyone watching, people can see our guys play high-level basketball. However, the meat of everything that we do and the potatoes of everything that we do is during the week. That player development, the pro habit sessions, the customized, you know, strength and training programs that we have, the customized academics programs that we have, the customized and brand building of what we have. That's our meat and potatoes. That is what's making these guys better every day. You know, our analytics team and giving them all the numbers that they need to help them grow their game and how we can show them data each and every week, like where they started, where they are now, where we're trying to get them to be. And what we try to do as much as possible is align with both parent, players, agents, and advisors to say, this is the progress. Where do you want to see your son get better at or your client be better at, right? And this is where we want to see them get better at. So how do we merge those 2 goals and help them as best we can? So I don't think you're going to find that as a matter of fact, I know you won't find that anywhere else on any high school level, because those things just don't exist in high school. Like that's why it's so scary to a lot of people. But when you're Jason Tatum in high school, or name a high school player that's highly touted or whatever and playing professional basketball currently, if you're those guys and you can say, I want to play against guys every single day and work against guys with and against guys every single day that's just as good as me or better, then that does something to you from an edge and a competitive perspective, whereby you can't ever really take possessions off. You can't ever truly take days off. You can't ever truly say, you know what, I'm going to be lazy today, because the environment doesn't allow you to be that. Right. Like now, if I'm at Norcross High School or, you know, any normal high school that's just a 4A, 5A, 3A, whatever the case may be, like how challenging is it really? Right? Like how challenging is that? And you're also not getting, you know, the time spent in the gym. Our gym is open until midnight every day, like for our guys that literally live across the street from our building. So, I mean, it's just the access that you have to get better, the resources that you have to improve, it's second to none.
Yeah. I mean, to speak on, you know, I coach at one of those normal high schools you're talking about, and we actually played against a kid named Drew Feinstein, who was in our league, who is last year I believe he was on the Young Dreamers roster. Yeah. And, you know, like this is a kid who was, you know, off the backboard dunk, you know, against teams like us, right? And now he's going into that environment where now he's getting to play and prepare and be a part of something where the talent level is not what you can get just by playing wherever. And I think going to the comments, I think the other thing that you're starting to see that you offer that other, you know, avenues don't, like, you know, if we go to the comments by Alex here, seeing OTE play at, you know, Adidas Next Gen made me rethink about them because of the showing that you had there.
The exposure thing, right? Like, competitively speaking, yes, we wanted to go out there and win every game, right? Every competitor, if you have a competitive bone in your body, you want to win games. You want to win all the games that you play in. But for us, it gave our youngest guys that we have here an opportunity to go play high-level basketball in front of a crowd that from game to game, you never knew who was sitting in those stands. You know, Adidas had people there, the NBA had people there, like all these overseas teams had people there. Like it was an environment where you had to show up, or you know, we would have truly got embarrassed. And we got us a couple of wins out there. That was a big deal for us. And I think what it did was show our younger guys, number one, how appreciative you should be of the opportunity to play the game of basketball globally, and not just domestically, but also globally. And then understanding how much better now that you have to get. So if you have an astute mind about the game, like you came back from that trip saying, these are the things I need to work on because these guys are coming, like they're here. And these guys can take food off my table at some point. So for us, man, like we fought a lot of battles and we've had a lot of challenges and we've had a lot of skepticism and all the questions and criticism and all of that. And we just keep plugging along and try to do the best we can to help these guys get better and expose them to the best competition around the world.
Yeah, and you know, obviously with the Adidas tournament, you guys just did that, but you've been going overseas with these guys. You know, I remember speaking. I spoke to Amen about it when I went to, there was a 2022 Pro Day, and you know, I asked him like, what was it like playing, you know, overseas, and what was that experience? And he was like, you know, like, look, we play in this nice arena, this beautiful facility with all of these amenities. He's like, they didn't have air conditioning in the gym we were in playing against, you know, Marc Gasol and like these guys. And he's like, you know, this was an opportunity for us to be appreciative of what we have, to learn, to see the style of play that they play over there. It's not one-on-one. It's high level, quick decisions, you know, and getting to see different basketball than you're just not going to be able to experience anywhere in the country. You know, it doesn't matter if it's the EYBL, it doesn't matter if it's Three Stripes or Under Armour, whatever. You can't replicate those kind of experiences. So I think that is a really important part of development, because as evaluators, we want to see guys in as many different contexts as we can.
Yeah. Right. I mean, that's the only way you can truly evaluate it, right? Like you might see one game and see a guy go for 40. A lot of times he's not as good as that. And then you might see another game where that same guy only has 3 points. And most times and a lot of times he's not as bad as that. So we want to give our guys, again, it goes back to the exposure, but it also speaks to the level of preparation and how serious we take our player development. Like we prepare these guys to be better every single day, and that is our job. That is our main focus, and that doesn't stop on the court, right? Like we're doing a lot of things for them to be better off the court as well. And you know, those are the things that I think, you know, holistically that we do that can help these guys be more prepared wherever they go, college, pro, than the next person. And I think you saw that was on full display last summer at Summer League in Vegas. Like we had what, 7 guys out there, 8 guys out there playing. And like, sure, all those guys didn't necessarily play on NBA rosters for the entire season, but all the feedback we got was, you guys are like, we could tell you guys are doing a good thing because your guys are just way more prepared. Like they just certain small nuances that make big differences in your IQ, your basketball IQ, or your level of play, your preparation, all of those things. And that's a win for us. You know, we don't walk around here beating our chest about things that we've accomplished. We're trying to accomplish more of those things. We want people to understand that, like, we're really here to help these guys get better. Like, that is our thing. And why is that such a bad thing? Like, like we question that all the time. It's like, why is it a bad thing that we're just helping guys get better? Like, that's all we want. If you walk in our building, it is, and you guys seen it, like you said, like it is it's its own mecca for development. And We're every day, again, we're trying to push those limits and see how much better we can be as a staff, as a coaching staff, as a player development staff, as academic leaders, as strength and conditioning leaders, as social leaders. Like all of us are working very hard to help our guys just get the very best and the most out of the resources that we offer here at Overtime Elite.
Yeah, no, for sure, Damien. I think what you're mentioning about like this holistic approach, right? I think that's really important where it's not just the development of the player, but also development of the person. I saw you did an interview with Kevin O'Connor from The Ringer, and you were talking about how, one of the kind of points of emphasis that you're telling the players is you guys are not just representing Overtime, but also even like Amazon, right? There are a lot of different people that you guys are, and of course, like your families, your future, all that stuff. And there's a lot more that I think you guys are kind of putting on their shoulders, and I think in a good way, right? Like you're helping them understand the weight of what they're doing, the severity of what they're doing, and I think all of that kind of encapsulates like the idea of this is what it means to be a professional, right? Where it's not just, hey, because simply you've talked a lot already about the player development part, right? Where you guys are investing in them as players. You have the facilities for them. The work ethic is there. The preparedness is there on the court, right? But also it seems like there's a big emphasis of off the court type of stuff, right? Becoming professionals, becoming maybe even adults, right? So Damien, was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that part, right? The person development part, not just the basketball part.
Well, we want these guys to understand that, like, number one, listen, I break these numbers down to our guys probably once a week. There's 450 guys in the NBA. Every year, there's 60 new people coming in. There's 60 new people in the draft, right? Of those 60, probably 23, between 19 to 23 of those guys actually stick.
Maybe.
Like that's a large amount. Yeah. So where are the other guys? Those 19 to 23, those maybes, there was a 19 to 23 jobs that's getting also taken away from someone else that already has it. Right. And then you talk about like the sheer numbers of it just aren't in your favor. Like they're just not in your favor. Like if there was 1 million guys playing in the NBA at one time, it'd be different. And even that'll be competitive, right? But like it's 450 guys playing in the NBA every year. Like the numbers aren't in your favor. So given that and knowing that, like when you have a situation where those numbers aren't in your favor, like a lot of times basketball don't work out for people. And it was a time where I thought it wouldn't work out for me. And I was the number 1 ranked player in high school when I came out of high school. Like it was a toss-up. And every other publication had me or Jay Will, like Jason Williams that went to Duke. So he and I, depending on who you liked or what publication it was him and I. So for me, I was trending in that direction, or so I thought, right? But I still didn't get drafted. I had to make a team and carve out 13 professional years, like, and work on that. Like I had to work my butt off for that, right? A lot of guys aren't built to do those things because at the first sign of adversity nowadays, like people want to transfer or quit or give up or whatever, jump in the portal, all of those things, right? Like, and sure, all those things are available to you, but like it's okay to take the stairs, right? But you also have to be prepared for that. Yeah. And preparing for that is knowing that, like, you know what? I have to understand mentally what I'm up against. And we try to help those guys understand what they're up against, the competition out there, and that it may not work out for you. So if it doesn't work out for you, can you still be a professional person, right? And if basketball is what you know, okay, well, let's help you work in basketball. Let's help you figure out a lane in basketball that you can work. If you don't want to do that, what other things can we offer? All the resources and partnerships that we have with Amazon and Gatorade and Spalding and Adidas and all our corporate sponsors. We bring our guys and we bring those sponsors into our building, and they talk with our guys, and we encourage our guys to talk to them and network with them and handshake with them, be around them, spend some time with them so you can get to know them. In the event that basketball doesn't work out, you have a solid resource that you can contact and say, hey man, like I really love what you guys are doing over there. And I really love that you're in the basketball and sports space. Can we, like, is there an opportunity for me with your company, since I met you when I was 16 years old, right? So that is something that, like, I didn't have growing up. Like, I felt basketball was the only thing like that I could do. Like, I didn't have, no one was introduced, and I had a dad and an uncle playing in the NBA at the time. I couldn't even go to them because they hadn't gotten that knowledge yet. We all think it's going to last forever once you get there, right? Like, we're that naive and also arrogant to think that, like, this is going to last forever. And I'll tell you a story real quick. My rookie year in Seattle, we lost to the San Antonio Spurs in the Western Conference semis in six games. But, like, I'm thinking the whole time, like, yeah, man, this is cool. Like, we got to the Western Conference semifinals as a rookie. Like, I'm going to go to the playoffs every year. Like, I didn't get back to the playoffs for a long time. It took like 6 years to get back to the playoffs. And that is the equivalent of the same analogy you can use for playing in this game. Like, I know guys in that draft of mine that went first round that literally only lasted the terms of their contract that they signed and never came back. So being like a professional person, right, that don't burn bridges, that just work your butt off, make connections, network, get out in the world and introduce the world as yourself, you know, introduce the world to yourself as yourself, and someone who is saying, you know what, I have 2 of these for a reason, right? I need to listen more and maybe talk less. Those are the things that get you further in life than a lot of your talent does, because of those 450 players in the NBA, how many of them are role players? Probably 430 are literally role players. Right? So it's just one of those things, man. You know, it's just one of those things where you have to keep harping on that, because guys don't want to be PJ Tucker. And PJ Tucker has made a lot of money playing basketball. Yeah. Right? Like, everyone wants to be LeBron and KD, as if like those just fall off trees, and it just don't work that way. Like, only about 11 of those guys who are just.
But you could still make a lot of money being PJ Tucker, and his shoe collection is proof.
PJ Tucker has made a lot of money playing basketball.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate his career. I appreciate the things that he's given to the game. I appreciate the fact that he's been able to find a way to stay. And you know, like, it may not have had the sexiest career in the world, but like, there's not many people in the basketball world that don't know who PJ Tucker is.
Right.
Yeah. 100%. Do you think the fact that your journey is, you played in the NBA for so long, but you also had to go play overseas, similar, PJ Tucker did too, right? You had to, and you made it back to the league after playing in the, I guess it was the D League back then, probably, right? Like, you know, like, do you think those words carry more weight because you've been through it, and like they respond to that? Because if I said that to somebody, they might be like, all right, whatever, I got this guy over here telling me I'm a top 5 pick and I'm gonna be the number 1 option until you're drafted to a team that already has Cade Cunningham or LaMelo Ball or whoever else on the team, and now all of a sudden you're not, and you got to adjust to that. So do you just think, like, your experiences, or guys like Ryan Gomes, you know, and by the way, that's when I stopped being skeptical. The first game that I saw in person and Ryan was coaching, and I was like, oh, he's coaching his ass off over there. Like, he's yelling at these dudes because they missed a low man rotation. Like, like, all right. But do you think, like, that experience, having guys who have been through it, like, means something to these guys?
I think it does. But I'm under the mindset, I'm not naive enough to, or again, too, you know, self-centered to think that, like, people who didn't play the game can't convey that message. You know, I believe everyone has a knowledge that you should appreciate, and everyone knows something that you don't know, right? Like, I played a lot of years in the NBA, and my dad and uncle played a lot of years in the NBA. I still don't believe I know everything there is about basketball. And I'm learning every day. I'm wanting to learn every day. My son is at OTE. So like I'm trying to feed him as much knowledge as I can about the game. So it's like one of those things, man, where you have people telling these guys stuff, and then sometimes they listen, and sometimes they don't, right? But they hear you. They hear you. But what truth is hard to take in.
Yeah.
It's hard for people to be like, man, he was just honest with me, and I didn't like what I heard. Well, that's what honesty is. Like, you're not always going to like what we tell you. And we're not telling you that to crush your dreams. We're telling you that to give you a picture of your reality, so you can start preparing for things if they don't work out, right? And the sooner you get that, the better, because I know a lot of guys that retired from playing or didn't get opportunities that they wanted to get, and they go home and sit on the couch, and it takes forever for them to find themselves. Like, to find themselves, like about, what can I do now? What knowledge did I gain on this road to this? And we don't want any of our guys to be that way. I don't want any guys to be that way that's not with OTE, right? Like, I want guys in this generation and guys that's following up with this generation to understand that, like, one, it may not work out for you. It may not. And two, what am I going to do about that, right? Like, do I want to spend 2 years in the NBA, and fight and scrap and claw to get back, and it's not my reality, and now I don't have nothing to fall back on, no other knowledge or skills or trades or none of those things. So for us, it's about building the complete person professionally and helping these guys understand that, again, one, it may not work out for you, and two, if it doesn't, like, okay, that's fine. Like, I've already heard that reality. People have been telling me that. And a lot of times what happens is even guys that I was a veteran to, like, they still contact me and be like, bro, you was right. Like, that connection that I made, that hand that you told me to shake, that ended up being my boss. And now I'm living a great life, taking care of my family and myself, and I'm happy within because I already got that knowledge. I was told that at an early age. And a lot of times that's what happens. So I can tell you two guys something, right, about things that you want to do. Say you want to be ESPN analyst one day on the desk of Sports Center. Like, I'm not going to tell you that won't work out for you, but I will tell you that's a competitive market. That's a competitive thing to do. It's a lot of people doing that, right? Now you go back, you could take that and be like, okay, well, since I know a lot of people are doing it, what is going to make me different? What is going to make me special? So that's why I'm always telling our guys, listen, man, find something that you're a specialist in on the court. Defense, offensive rebounding, shooting, ball handling, getting in the paint, making plays, scoring, whatever you're a specialist in, just do that. And you can carve out yourself a really good professional career.
Yeah. Damien, you what you just said about the specialization, right? I think that's it might be a tough pill to swallow. Like you just said, right? Some people, the truth can hurt. It could be hard to accept, but it's such an important thing, right? And as you were talking, and you're talking about the holistic player, right? The holistic person. Looking at the OTE, you being the GM over the Overtime Elite, right? What do the next 5 years look like? And the reason why I asked this question is early on, you mentioned how, early on, there was some hesitation, there were some questions, right? It was kind of tumultuous, but things are moving in the right direction. And then now you being the GM and you having that foresight and you looking into the future and how you guys want to continue to develop the OTE. You mentioned how you're learning every single day. And I'm sure you guys as an organization are doing exactly the same. You guys all have that same ethos, right? Where do you think the OTE kind of fits in with the future of the whole amateur to pro sports type of bridge connection type of thing in, the current landscape?
Well, we're still building. We just completed season 3. Season 1 came with a lot of criticism, and I joked early in the show at our opening that we didn't make a lot of friends. People don't like tradition interrupted. And I think we've interrupted that, but in a good way, because again, the numbers aren't lying. Like those are real people in the draft. These are real scouts in our building every day, right? Like we're a real topic of conversation in the basketball space. Unfortunately, the G League Ignite didn't last, and we fed them players, like literally fed them guys, and so for us, I feel like, and I truly believe that we are the premier destination for high school basketball development. But also, it's not for everyone, and that doesn't mean that there aren't different recipes for disaster. Recipes for success. We understand that more than anyone because we're a different recipe.
Yeah.
And as good as like we've been, we still have a lot of work to do. Like we have a lot of work to do to get better. We have a lot of work to do to continue to go out in the market and recruit guys and get families to trust us and to trust us with their son. And we have a lot of work to do to go out and continue to recruit, younger guys who are on a path to, possibly play professional basketball. But it's just one of those things where we constantly got to fight people on the fence. And I think after last year, we stopped fighting that. And it's like, you know what? Like some people are just not going to like you. They just don't like what you do. And that's okay. That is quite all right. Like our job is not to be concerned with that. Our job is to continue to build our audience the way we built it. Our job is to also help these guys, again, just continue to get better and put a great product out there on the floor and in the world. And we want guys to come out of here eventually in 5 years from now, we want people to say that's an OTE guy. That's an OTE guy. That is my vision for it. That like undoubtedly, once you see a player walk into a room, you can know he's an OTE guy.
Yeah. And the Thompson twins seem like they're already making, a mark on the league to where, it feels like they were the face of this whole thing. Albert and I, when we were at the Nike Hoop Summit, we got an opportunity to see Amen with the Rockets come through and play the Blazers. And it's like, man, like what a transformation too. Like this is a guy who was being billed as a ball in his hands point guard. And now he looks like Sean Marion. Like he could be this whole other thing, but like he got these crazy reps doing one thing in this league, and now he's getting a chance to do this other thing. He's and Sarr, I think his first game was against Jimmy Butler, and he's going toe to toe, chest to chest, blocking him on layups and stuff. So like, I think that's a vision that can certainly, is well on its way to becoming a reality, especially because like you mentioned, a lot of guys in this class, I think it's a good opportunity to kind of make a transition into some of these guys. And, I guess we should start with, the potential number one pick. Alex Sarr went to Perth. The first time I saw Alex, I was in the gym at Roselle Catholic in New Jersey. And I see this dude, huge, right? And sometimes, on video, on Synergy, whatever, because I don't even think you guys had the Amazon deal at this point. Like these guys, you can't tell how big some of these dudes are, like Stamto and all these dudes are monsters. Alex, a 7-footer. And my first impression, I was like, bro, stop shooting these threes. Like you just airballed one, the next one hit the side of the backboard. And I came into this year and I could see the skill, right? Like went to the pro day a month later. You see the skill, him working, the footwork, the touch, all of that. And it's raw. And as somebody who coaches high school kids, I know that especially at these ages, over the course of an off season, if they're working hard, whether it's because, their body matures or just something clicks, they don't just make like small jumps. They'll make like these huge leaps out of nowhere. And when his team played the G League Ignite in that showcase, I was like, yo, looks like a completely different player. Like the skeleton and the bones were there, but like, I was like, I'm not going to lie. I was a little shocked. So, what did you see every day from Alex Sarr? to, have him go from this, raw, super talented, obviously talented guy to somebody who now you're actually seeing him put those pieces together?
Alex came to us as a 16-year-old skinny kid, that didn't even know how talented he was. And I would tell Alex all the time. I said, Alex, man, if it ever comes together for you and you work on your body and your aggression, like, you have number one pick potential. Just with his skill set, because his skill set was there. It's just the aggression with which he would show it wasn't. But like, he is just super versatile, man. He has those Wembanyama, Porzingis traits about him, in that he has the frame like them, right? Like that 7-foot guy, 7-foot plus guy who can step out on the perimeter, who can make shots, gets to the basket, he can block shots, he can play, he plays defense, he can switch a lot of pick and rolls. He can play he plays really efficiently in space. You get him setting a screen and popping, or a ghost screen where he just runs and pops into space. He can catch and make quick decisions. He's a really good decision maker. And if you look at the NBA and where it's trending, like, he has the prototype build for like the direction that a lot of these versatile long players are going. Now, and then he started to work on his body. He started to lift twice a day. Again, speaks to our availability and the resources that we have. Like, he was lifting weights in the morning during his lift time, but then coming back at night to lift again. And it's something about throwing that iron around, right? Like, it's something about those muscles, and your body change that causes you to get more aggressive. And that's what he started to do. And I think going to Perth after he left us was a decision that he made based on who he knew that we were like bringing in. We were getting younger. We had 3 15-year-old kids at our building this past year, like freshmen. Like, Alex, for him, that wouldn't have made a whole lot of sense to play against those guys. And I get why, right? And then, our window is 2 to 3 years, and he spent 2 really good years with us. But you can tell the foundation was laid, and we don't, necessarily fight to try to take credit for someone and what they're doing, because he learned some things in Australia too this past year. Like, that's helped him, be now talked about as the potential number one pick. So I think collectively, between first him, us, and all his time in Australia, I think his game is now starting to come together, and he's starting to see the things that he can be. And now you get a guy, you're talking about him being a potential number one pick mentally, that does something for your confidence. Like, you're like, oh, okay, though. So not only do I think I'm good, like, you guys think I'm good enough to be in this conversation as well, too. And I think it's just so it's so gratifying to see Alex's game evolve the way it has, and to see him playing at the level that he's playing at, and then to have him again be in that conversation, for the number one pick. And I think, honestly, like, unbiasedly speaking, and biasedly speaking, if I'm honest, like, I think the Hawks would be making the right decision if they took him at number one.
Now, like you said, you don't want to take credit for, he's obviously naturally super talented, right?
Sure.
But I mean, look, the NBL is a tough, physical league, and he was not the only guy to come over from America's high school basketball system to play there, but he was the most ready to do it. And there were a lot of guys who five star. I'm not gonna call anybody out by name, but there are 5 stars that went over there and had kind of a rude awakening. But when again, we can all be skeptical, but the proof is in the pudding, right? Results are results. It just is what it is sometimes, right?
Results. And I think the more we just keep helping and changing these guys' game and helping them be better and more prepared, eventually people will come around, right? Like people, our society is built on tradition. And I truly believe, and I say this all the time, one of the most dangerous phrases in our society's vocabulary, like right now, is we've always done it that way. Because what you're doing is you're handicapping yourself to evolve. You're saying to yourself, we've always done it this way, so we can never do it any other way. And to me, this has nothing to do with Alex Sarr of the draft or nothing, but it starts that way of thinking is the foundation of our educational system. It's one answer for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They never really give you optionality. That's what we provide. We provide optionality, the optionality that we never truly learn in our traditional educational system. Because again, it's one answer, it's one teacher, it's one way of doing things, it's one line, it's one bell. Like everyone gets the same attention. And how can you have a successful program with hundreds of people, right, that's getting the exact same thing at the exact same time? When you think about that, I don't learn at the same pace as you guys. You two don't learn at the same pace as each other. People in the chat don't learn or grow at the same pace as each other. Like reading the chat, you see differences of opinions.
Yeah.
Like all these differences of opinions, right? Like, and all of those opinions are valid. None of them are wrong. Those are valid opinions. I feel a certain way, you feel a certain way. So why would I give you one thing to consider, think about, or do when we all have something in us that's different? And
right.
You have to have a different way of bringing those things out. So for us, is we look at Alex and it's like, man, like this kid, if he can get this, right? Amin and Sarr, we look at them, if they can get this, like Rob Dillingham, if he could just get this. And it's not all the same. Mm-hmm. All of those guys have something that I guarantee you all of those guys want from the other. You know what I mean? Like,
I think we all want Rob's bag. We all want Rob's bag.
If Alex Sarr had Rob's bag, it was like, this wouldn't even be we wouldn't even be talking about who's the number one pick. We'd be like, who's number two?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if Amin and Sarr, if they came to us and left us being snipers.
Yeah. Eli Ellis a shot. They took Eli Ellis a shot.
Eli Ellis a shot, right?
Yeah.
Give them Eli Ellis a shot. You're talking about two monsters now. Like you arguably can put them right now if they had a shot like just Eli Ellis, or Jaden Wilkins. My son, a lot of you guys don't know him yet. But if they had that, right?
Yeah.
Like we'll be talking about them not only as like some top rookies, but some of the top two-way players in the league.
Right.
So it's everyone. For us, our advantage is we break down what you need most that's going to separate you from the rest.
Now, let's talk about Rob for a little bit, because Rob was a guy that Rob with the ships. Rob was a guy who, I'm not going to front. We did a piece early on for NoCeilingsNBA.com, subscribe, it's free, to where we were like, who do we think is gonna not live up to the expectation? I had just seen him at like the Iverson Classic, watched him in Global Jam, and I was like, man, I wonder where Rob's gonna be transferring to next year. Because he was like, I was just like, this is a dude, look, we know what his frame is, right? Like combine is what it is. And I was like, he's just like a small chucker. Like the NBA is not about that anymore. Yeah. And then I don't know what happened. I don't know if you had a conversation. I don't know if Cal had a conversation. I don't know if Reed Shepherd had a conversation. He turned into this dude who he's playing off the ball. He's moving,
all of us had to have that conversation.
But he did a complete 180, and I was like, yo, I don't care that he's 165 pounds. Like, dude's shooting 45% from three. He's got a 30% assist percentage. He's getting to any spot he wants on the floor, and he's playing unselfishly. And if he can continue to do this, it doesn't matter. Go get put him with the Spurs. Have 2 picks. You got Wembanyama behind him. All right, he's going to step up defensively.
You look at his numbers from where he came from before he came to OTE, right? And then you look at his numbers of where he went, like after OTE. Like, there are some people who, like, I've heard argue that he had a tougher time at Overtime Elite than he did at Kentucky.
I heard a story about the Thompsons that
that was his first game. So his first game playing against the Twins, that was his first game at OTE. Like, he left, like after the game, he left the locker room and went back to our league housing and called me, and he was like, bro, y'all didn't tell me that I got to play against 2 6'7" dudes that pressure me full court. He was like, how are they moving their feet like that? And he was like, I've never played against, anytime I've seen a 6'7" guy on me, I thought he was too big. I thought he was too tall to guard me. I thought there's no way. Like, and he's like, these dudes are 6'7" and they are locking me up full. They picking me up 94 feet. Like, do they know who I am? Do they, like, this is crazy. And I think us helping him manage his game better, not change it, but just manage his game better. So, hey, like, these are the spots where you can be Rob, right? You be Rob. We'll give you 80% Rob. We'll give you that. But this 20%, we need you to be to help this guy get better. We need you to make a play for him. We need you to just pass that, right? And get off the ball. Yeah. But like, and then I think Cal, when he got to Kentucky, reiterated that to him. So then it was like another message that he heard the same thing. And that's how it works, going back to our earlier discussion. It works that way. So now he gets to Cal, and Cal is telling him the same thing. Like, no, I can't have you come here and be North Carolina or Don DeRob. That's over. Like, you saying you want to be an NBA player, so you can't be Donda Combine Rob. Like, I need you to be a better version of what you were at OTE. And in fact, I'm bringing you off the bench. I'm going to do something that no one has ever done.
Yeah.
You know, and then like there's growth, right? You grow the most when you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
When you're uncomfortable is when you grow the most. And I think that was uncomfortable for Rob, but he grew and excelled in that role. So he came off the bench, and the trick that Cal did was like actually genius, is that I'm going to bring you off the bench, but I'm only going to put one true scorer and other playmaker out there with you. The rest of these guys, they're going to just play off you guys.
Yeah.
You and Reed Shepherd run the show. Run the show off the bench. But
He did a great job.
Yeah, like I'm bringing you off the bench because I want you to be able to be you, but I need you to be you within my system. I need you to be under control, and this is the way I can help you be under control to help you further not only get better, but build that foundation that you got at OTE, and then also, you know, not strip you of your game, because we love Shifty. We love you, Shifty. Like, we all want to see the shifts.
Yeah.
We also want to see the playmaking too. We also want to see you lead. We also want to see you help your teammates get better. And I think that's what he did. And now he's put himself in a position to be a top 5 pick. And I love to see it.
I think that goes to show, like, you know, going back and wrapping up here, we're going to have you, come back on so we could talk about the other guys too. But I think that goes back to, like you said, making these boys turn into men, and the growth and the maturity. Because look, if you're Rob Dillingham, I don't know how many followers he has on social media, but it's more than most kids his age have. And every day somebody's making him a mixtape, and like he could just go on to Instagram and be like, oh yeah, I'm nice. Like these guys can't tell me nothing. But the fact that he absorbed that and that clicked with him at a time, because if it didn't click, his season could have gone a way different way. The narrative for him, prospects nowadays, like you mentioned, there's how many guys make it to the league, how many stick. Once you get there, how hard do you have to work because people are trying to keep their job? Like if it didn't click, like it could have been over like that. You could be there's somebody else on Instagram coming up.
On the way.
Right? Like there's always somebody coming up.
Always someone it's someone in the gym right now.
Right.
And there's someone who's not. And what I tell our guys a lot, and I tell my son a lot, is I remember he was the first person that introduced me to my son. He introduced me to Dior Johnson, Mikey Williams, the kid that's on Cleveland's Cavaliers G League or team roster, Armani. He used to tell me about those guys all the time, and I used to be like, man, like I hope those guys, keep doing well and keep tracking well. Unfortunately, they all hit some type of road bumps and maybe their plans got detoured, right? Like, and that happens. But like I always tell them, like, it can happen that quickly. Like the minute you get comfortable and thinking that, like, you start believing all the hype and the comments, it's like people are on these guys' pages at 10 years old, like telling them that they're the greatest thing in the world. And then like they believe that. I'm like, I always tell our guys, like, you can't, like, dude, this dude doesn't have pubic hairs yet. And you already believe that you believe that you're a pro because he said so. Right. Like, come on, man. Like, you can't get caught up in that. Like, what you have to do is focus on the work and the journey and the process and the ups and the downs, because all of those things are shaping you to be actually what you're chasing. And the minute you get comfortable, or the minute you start thinking like you're better than everyone else because some 7th graders are telling you how good you are all the time, man, like, is the moment that person in the gym that's working and not paying attention to that, he's on your ass. He's going to surpass you.
100%, man. I mean, I don't think you could have said it any better. And I appreciate your time coming here. Everybody in the chat has obviously loved your appearance here. And like I said, we got to have you back so we could talk about Tyler and Ethan and Bryson and all the guys that we didn't get a chance to cover here on the show tonight. But tell the people where they can find you, what's next, just anything, any kind of last parting thoughts that we got about the OT program.
We didn't get to Tyler Smith and Ethan, but those two guys are amazing. Tyler Smith is a left-handed, another unicorn type of guy who can stretch the floor. He can guard, he can handle. I liken Ethan Almanza to he reminds me a lot of Al Horford, man.
Yeah.
I
always say he's Al Horford and Joakim Noah. Like if you put it together,
he
funky.
reminds me a lot of those two guys who had great NBA careers. I think they're gonna be okay. I hope they land somewhere where they get a chance to develop, but also get a chance to showcase. I think
good basketball minds too, because I got to sit down and watch film with them, and they could talk the game through.
Bryson Warren is another guy that's out there that's deserving of an opportunity. He was with Sioux Falls last year. And then you got a guy, VJ. I like that comment. Tyler Smith to Sacramento next to Sabonis would be really good.
Little space, get him a little space.
You might be a GM one day, my guy. And then you got Jalen Lewis, who's the youngest of the bunch, man, who is a guy that's super versatile, a big kid who can shoot it. He's athletic, and we hope the best for all of our guys, man. We're super excited for all of those guys. I can't wait for draft night. Any updates, I'll provide you guys. My Instagram is DWILK3000, just like Andre. DWILK3000. You can find me on on Instagram, and I'm always shouting out OTE and our guys. Hoping the best for all of our guys in this draft. And again, Atlanta, don't get this wrong. Don't mess this up, Atlanta. Don't mess this up.
You heard him. You heard him, Landry. Don't mess it up. Like we said, we appreciate you taking all this time. This has been a lot of fun, very insightful. We're going to be excited to have you back. And we're also so appreciative of all times and opportunities that you invite us into your spaces, whether it's, the events that you have out on the East Coast, down in Atlanta. So we're appreciative of that. You can find me at Corey Tulaba on Twitter at the NBA Draft Dude. Elsewhere, you can find Albert at Alberto Gimto. How do you always say it?
Like the toe on your foot, TOE.
He didn't want to say it.
I was like, I'm gonna mess this up. I'm usually pretty good at that, but I don't want to
Like the Hawks,
jump all that out. Don't mess this up. And then follow No Ceilings NBA. Like, subscribe. If you're on the podcast feed, make sure you rate and review. We got a lot of fun things down the pipe. We're a month away from the NBA draft. Don't mess this up, Atlanta. Until next time, we're out. Peace.
I'll be back.